So my name is Sofia, and I teach dance here at Chapman as well as Pilates. I just started here this fall, and right now I am just considered a lecturer. When I was in high school, Bob Fosse had died, and that was my goal. I was like, I have to get out of high school, and I'm gonna work for Bob Fosse. And then he died, and I was like, no, this isn't right. And I think the universe just, because I do believe in this law of attraction and really putting that kind of energy out in the universe, I think it was just so strong that I met two of his assistants, Tony Stevens and Chris Chadman, and Chris just took me under his wing at first, and I was working all the time with him. So when he passed away, Tony Stevens sort of came back into my life, and he was like, you need to teach. Like, he's like, you miss this mentor so much, but you're now at an age where you should be now passing your experience on. So I started teaching in '98. So I was 28, and I was still working on Broadway, but I was so affected by his death. It was still the '90s, so we were losing people to AIDS, but it was really the first time that somebody really, I had lost other friends, but he was more than just a friend. He was a mentor. He was my choreographer. He was my dance teacher, and I think I just went on this thing where I was like, I want to teach. I want to keep what he was doing alive. It really didn't turn full time until I was about 39, 40, was when it really started to become more of the main thing I was doing. A lot of that has to do with, obviously, dancers getting older. I unfortunately had a dramatic experience. It's like almost like a Lifetime movie thing. When I was hit by a car in 2010, just crossing the street, a car swiped me over his SUV. So I lost my ACL. I have very little MCL. I have like 3 herniations in my lower back. I have 2 in my neck. And my hand was broken in a couple of different places. So it just kind of, there was this moment of just sort of like, okay, even if this didn't happen, how much longer could I keep going? So it really kind of put me on a different quest of going, all right, what is it you want to do? I want to stay creative. I love dance. I like creating dance, and I love being around students. I love being around younger people. So it just kind of pushed me more into that direction. My first Broadway show that was a success, because my first Broadway show, we did a tryout in Philly, and it flopped, and so we never went past Philadelphia. So my first Broadway show ended up being a real success, which was Guys and Dolls. And that was amazing just because of the director, the choreographer, who was a big mentor of mine, Chris Chadman, again, no longer with us. He passed away of AIDS in '95. And then there was this amazing cast of people like Nathan Lane and Faith Prince, and then there's J.K. Simmons, who's now an Oscar winner, and he's like the green M&M voice, and he's like doing all these crazy commercials and movies everywhere. And then Walter Bobby, who was the Nicely, he ended up being the director of Chicago. So there was also that connection as well. That was just an amazing time, because it was my first time on a Broadway stage, and I think that first Broadway experience, when you open a show in New York, is just, there's just nothing like it.
What is some advice you would give to young artists, young dancers entering the industry?
I definitely always encourage to stay creative and stay truthful to the storytelling and the creations you want to put forth. Because the business will start to dictate to you and how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to present yourself. And yes, it is show business, and we do want to be a commodity, and sometimes we forget that as that commodity, that we forget our own passions and our own goals and our own truths as to why we want to do this. I know for myself, I was so much more creative when I was younger, and then as I became more involved in the business aspect of it, that creative outlet started to dissipate, it started to dim. And it was only until I got older that I started going, I want to be that creative person. I want to be that crazy person again that just wants to wear a cape and run around and pretend. And so as young people, I always say, make sure you hold on to your goals. You hold on to, that's the only thing we can control in this business, is our passion. It's our creativity that we hold on to, because the business is going to knock you around. And if you lose that, you kind of lose yourself in that process. And then you forget why you're in it to begin with. So I always say, hold on to that one source of light. That's your passion. That's your goal. That makes you wake up in the morning and go, oh, I want to do that. Because in the business, it can take away from that. So I always encourage them that do the business, but then make sure you're also doing your art, because that's yours. Nobody can ever claim that. That is always yours, and the business is that. Don't let them do that, because the business will topple you.